अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Welcome. So today we are going to start from verse number 16, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. So where we see Sri Bhagavan is continuing speaking to Arjuna. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayoropi drishtontyas tvanayostattvadarshibhihi. Na, never, asataha, of the non-existent, vidyate, there is, bhavaha, endurance, na, never, abhavaha, changing quality, vidyate, there is, sataha, of the eternal, ubhayoho, of the two, api, verily, drishtaha, observed, antaha, conclusion, tu, indeed, anayoho, of them, tattva, of the truth, darshibhihi, by the seers. Translation. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, that is the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, that is the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Thank you. So from verse number 16 to I think it will not be possible for us to study all the verses, that is from 16 to 25. We will try to study as we can. So this is verse number 16, where Bhagavan says that na asata vidyatehe bhavaha, na abhava vidyate satah, ubhayaha api drishtah, ubhayaha api drishtah, antah tu anayoho tattvadarshibhihi. So, no endurance of the material body and no change of the spirit soul. That is the gist Bhagavan wants to give us in this verse. And we see that body is changing every moment as a result of cell division and the death of the decay of the old cells. And we see that the mind is changing even faster. Thousands of thoughts are coming every moment in our mind. But the soul exists eternally despite of changes of the body and mind. And Bhagavan says that this is the conclusion by all the seers of truth, whether impersonalist or personalist. And this understanding immediately removes the ignorance and makes a person fearless. Now we see in Vishnu Purana 2.12.38, it is said that Jyotimshi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnuhu. That is, Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Spiritual existence. So the removal of ignorance and the dawn of knowledge ultimately lead to a perfect understanding of our true relationship with the Supreme Lord. And we see in Vedanta Sutras and in Śrimad Bhagavatam, which is also recognized as the natural commentary of Vedanta Sutras, Śrimad Bhagavatam. So there we see that the Supreme Lord is said to be the origin of all emanations. And actually our knowledge or awareness and bliss is eternal. Both are eternal and without decay. So, sorry for my bad throat. Only we need to understand this truth, and so that seer of the truth can feel this. That is why they become fearless and immortal at the same time. So this verse we see the changeless quality of the Atma is actually indicated by. Okay, so now verse number 17. अविनाशी तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वामिदं ततं विनाशामव्ययस्यस्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति. Avinashi, imperishable, tu, but, tat, that, vidhi, know it, yena, by whom, sarvam, all of the body, idam, this, tatam, pervaded, vinasham, destruction, avyayasya, of the imperishable, asya, of it, nakaschit, no one, kartum, to do, arhati, is able. Translation. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. And we can study verse number 18 also at the same time. We can chant first. Antavanta ime deha nityasyukta sharirina anashino prameyasya tasmadudhyasya bharata. Antavantaha, perishable, ime, all these, dehaha, material bodies, nityasya, eternal, in existence, uktaha, are said, sharirinaha, of the embodied soul, anashinaha, never to be destroyed, aprameyasya, immeasurable, tasmad, therefore, yudhyasva, fight, bharata, O descendant of Bharata. Translation. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Thank you. Okay, so verse number 17. Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya asya nakaschit kartum arhati. So here we find two qualities. First is avinashi, that is imperishable or indestructible. And number two is sarvam idam tatam, that is pervading the entire body. So this sarvam idam tatam, that is pervading the entire body, we can compare it with the analogy of as the sun pervades the whole universe, or as the active principles of medicine pervades the entire body. It is somehow like that. Actually, we can feel that which is there throughout our body is the consciousness. And it is the consciousness for which we are aware of the facts. We are experiencing the world. So every one of us is aware of the pain and pleasure of our own body. And it is unknown to others. So each and everybody is the embodiment of an individual soul. Now, as the souls are qualitatively and quantitatively same, so we can case that the pain and pleasure are also very similar. So the presence of the body is perceived by the individual consciousness, and there is no other option to perceive it. And this consciousness or the soul is actually responsible for the working of the intelligence, mind, and all the organs. So these are the two qualities that we get from this verse, that is avinashi, indestructible, or pervading the entire body, sarvamidam tatam. And in verse number 18, we find the size and position of the soul. Here we see this particular word, nitya, anashina, and aprameya. These three are the three qualities are being mentioned in this verse. So anashina means indestructible, aprameya means immeasurable, and nitya is eternal. So here Bhagavan, that is why says that the imperishable material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal soul will come to the end surely. That is why don't hesitate to fight the battle, O Arjuna. This is the point. So we see that is Bhagavan is actually not allowing Arjuna to sacrifice the principles of religion for bodily considerations of which is actually useless thought. And we see in the scriptures we find the size of the soul is mentioned, as in Shvetara Upanishad we find 5.9. It is said that if we take a hair strand and we divide the tip of the hair strand into 10,000 parts, then that one part is equal to the soul. So we can guess how It is beyond our material imagination. The tip of an hair strand and 10,000th part of that tip of hair strand. So that is why here Bhagavan says it is aprameya. It is actually immeasurable. So the verse that is mentioned in Shvetashvetara Upanishad is Balagra Shatabhagasya Shatadha Kalpitasya Cha Bhago Jivaha Samvigneyaha Sa Chayantaya Kalpate Sa Atyantaha Kalpate. So it is that size which is actually very difficult for us to imagine also. And in Mundaka Upanishad we see 3.1.9, it is said that Esha Anur Atma Chetasa Veditavyo Yasmin Pranaha Panchadha Samvivesha Pranaishchittam Sarvam Otam Prajanam Yasmin Vishuddhe Vibhavati Esha Atma. So here it is said that the soul is atomic and can be perceived by perfect intelligence only. It is floating in the 5 kinds of air, that is prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana, and situated within the heart and spread its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. And when the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. And the Ashtanga Yoga system is meant for liberation of the soul from the entanglement of material atmosphere by controlling the 5 kinds of air encircling the soul. The individual atomic soul pervades the entire body, as we discussed in previous verse also. As the measurement of the soul is beyond material imagination, we may think that the soul does not exist at all. And there is no such thing called Atma. But the fact is the individual atomic soul is definitely present in the heart along with the Paramatma, that is the Supreme Soul. So the energy required for the flow of oxygen from the lungs is actually gathered from this part, this soul. Though medical science cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul, but they admit that the heart is the seat of all the energy of the body. That is granted by the medical science, isn't it? Heart is the source of all the energy and it is ultimately the most valuable organ of our entire body, the heart. It is admitted by the medical science. But the soul concept is definitely not there. But directly they cannot deny also, as there is no proof in their hand. So, as it is impossible to perceive by any material means, certainly it cannot be distracted, and therefore it is eternal. That is why these 2 qualities are also mentioned, Anashina and Nitya. If you cannot see it, if you cannot measure it, there is no question to distract it. How can you distract? Or therefore it is eternal. So these are the qualities that we find from this verse. Next verse is verse number 19. Verse number 19, a beautiful verse. Here Bhagavan says, Ya enam vetti hantaram yashchaina manyate hatam ubhautau na vijaneto nayam hanti na hanyate. Yaha, anyone who, enam, this, vetti, knows, hantaram, the killer, yaha, anyone who, cha, also, enam, this, manyate, thinks, hatam, killed, ubhau, both, tau, they, na, never, vijnataha, vijanitaha, are in knowledge, na, never, ayam, this, hanti, kills, na, nor, hanyate, is killed. Translation. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. For the self slays not, nor is slain. This is the most beautiful part of this verse. Atma, thank you. Atma can neither be a killer nor be slain. Neither be a killer nor be slain. So it is only possible by an ignorant person to think the other way. So in this connection, I would like to share a beautiful story. In the year 1898, three freedom fighter brothers, Vasudeva Chapekar, Damodara Chapekar and Balakrishna Chapekar, who were only 10, 11 and 12 years old respectively at that time, were hanged by the British government. And when they were approaching the gallows, that is the platform from where they would be hanged till death, they all were smiling. And on being asked, they showed Bhagavad Gita, and particularly this verse, Nahanyate. They say, sir, you cannot kill us. It is the body that will be vanquished only. We are immortal, so there is no question. However powerful you be, but you have no power to kill us. And that is why they continued smiling till they were hanged. So this beautiful story we get, and the power of this particular verse. This one verse, we can see how it is. It has the power to motivate a person and can transform from within. So the duties performed in the material body, we see, cannot hamper the true nature of the soul anyway. However, this does not encourage the killing of the body. And because why not? Because according to Vedic scripture, it is said that killing of the body or committing violence to any creature is very offensive. Ma himsyat sarva bhutani. So killing of the body of any creature whimsically and without authority is atrocious and punishable offense. Punishable both by the state order and by the orders of the Supreme Lord. So we see here Arjun is engaged in the battle to protect the religious principles and not whimsically. As a Kshatriya, he is only doing his duty. So that is why Bhagavan wants to convince Arjuna this way. So the next verse is verse number 20 that we can study today. this verse number 20, na jayate mriyate. And this particular verse we see is an extension of verse number 13. No, not exactly this one. It is actually vasam sujirnani yatha vihaya. So it is actually starting from here. Na jayate na mriyate. Okay, thank you. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. न never, jayate takes birth, mriyate dies, va either, kadachit at any time, past, present and future, na never, ayam this, bhutva having come into being, bhavita will come to be, va or, na not, bhuyaha or is again coming to be, ajaha unborn, nityaha eternal, shashvataha permanent, ayam this, puranaha the oldest, na never, hanyate is killed, hanyamane being killed, sharire the body. Translation. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Thank you. So, here ajaha, though it is not mentioned, it will be, 1 minute, it will be mentioned in the next verse, ajam. But this means aja. Sorry. Na jayate. Na jayate means never takes birth. That means aja. Na mriyate, that means never dies. And nitya is eternal. Nitya is mentioned 3 times here in different verses. And shashvata, purana. So these are the qualities mentioned in this verse. Now shashvata means permanent. That is, as we discussed earlier also, soul is not subject to 6 kinds of transformation like the body. That is asti, jayati, vardhati, viparinamati, apakshiyati and nashyati. That is coming into being, birth, growth, duration, decline and decay. These 6 kinds of changes. And we see the soul never becomes old. And that is why we see an old man does not feel himself old, because he feels himself the same spirit as he was in the childhood or in the youth. And very interestingly, all of us experience this divine experience in our life, but actually we don't understand the reality behind it. Why don't we feel that we are getting old? It is the reality. So we see the changes of the body never affect the soul. It is not possible. So the next point, that is na ayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyah, that is has not, does not, will not come into being. That means Purana. Purana means the oldest, that is Sanatana. Sanatana or ancient. So we see Atma has no abhava. Abhava, there are stated as three kind of abhava: prag abhava, dhvamsa abhava, and atyanta abhava. This means prag abhava means that which was not present before creation. Dhvamsa abhava means which is not present after annihilation. And atyanta abhava means which is non-existent. And soul is devoid of all these three. Soul is eternally present. It means that there was no such time when it was absent. It was present before creation, it will be present after annihilation, and it is still present. There is no question of non-existent associated with soul. That is why it is Purana, which means Sanatana. So with this we will end today's session because it will take time. So 20. From 21 we will study in our next class. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Thank you. And please forgive me for my disturbance in the throat.